Hello and welcome to France 24. Welcome to this exclusive interview with the President of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for being with us.
Always a pleasure, always a pleasure.
As everyone can see, it's a COVID-era interview. You've announced a relaxation of some of the strict measures you've put in place. Bars have reopened. However, the nightly curfew is still there. Schools especially have not reopened. Where are we in Kenya? Is the worst behind?
Well, like I said, it's really a very difficult question to answer. Is the worst behind us? Because as many countries around the world have shown, COVID is an evolving situation. You think it's behind you, and then somehow a second wave comes across you. So yes, indeed, we have relaxed, because we feel that the interventions that we have taken for the last 6 months, since March, we initially locked down the whole country. We shut down international travel. It was a very difficult decision, given our country is a country that is tourism-based. We believe that some of those initial measures that we took saved us from experiencing a much more severe problem than we actually did. But as things went on and our infection rate started to drop, and our recoveries also went up, our fatalities also went down, and ultimately, when we started now nearing the WHO recommended infection rate of less than 5%, we felt it was also time now to start focusing ourselves on the economy. So we've started slowly, increasing the curfew, reducing rather the curfew hours, allowing certain businesses to once again start.
But the schools have not reopened.
We will reopen the schools.
There's no date.
But I just felt there is no date, because we need to be able to assess the situation and to be sure that we are taking our children into an environment that is safe, because at the end of the day, the largest investment we have as a country is our children.
What about the economic costs? Millions of jobs lost. This has been a nightmare, essentially. We
had some sectors, of course, that were very hit, the tourism and some of the service sectors, which now are getting back on their feet. But we have been lucky in the sense that as much as we have had an economic downturn in terms of the projections that we had for the year, they are definitely, our results so far are definitely far much better than we could ever have hoped for, because we still have positive growth, we still have some sectors growing, and we have also seen new innovations of people adapting to the so-called new normal, especially in the tech industries and the way that, restaurants that were closed, doing home deliveries and things like that. So, yes, we have taken a hit like everybody else in the world, but luckily it's not been as bad as has happened elsewhere or as we ourselves had envisioned.
There's a stain, however, in the COVID Kenya story, if I may add, what many describe as a corruption scandal, the Kenyan Medical Supplies Agency. There have been reports, investigation about essentially mishandling of funds that were directed to save lives and help medical staff do their jobs. Are the culprits really going to be prosecuted?
And when the whole story came out, and we said that nothing will be spared, and what we have actually done is put in place all the necessary mechanisms, empowered the necessary agencies, who, as we reported in our COVID conference a couple of days ago, full authority to complete their investigations, to make their report public, and indeed to prosecute anybody who may have been involved in any kind of misuse of
anybody, no stone unturned.
No stone unturned. And we have given them full authority to do that, and we have actually stated that as soon as they are ready, they should just make their report open, not just to Parliament and myself, but to the entire country, so that people will be able to see that everything has been done transparently in order to assure that we have full accountability on the whole process.
Here in France, this is your first trip abroad since the lockdown that you mentioned. Some private-public or public-private partnerships have been signed for infrastructure projects. Obviously, infrastructure is a key, but there's always the question of debt, that you add more debt that's already there. Is this something you think can be avoided?
Well, in fact, this is the most interesting thing about this particular trip. It is because this is really one of the first and indeed the largest infrastructure project that is road-related, that is actually being done not by government, but by private sector, because it is private sector that is actually investing in developing these roads on a concession basis. So actually, what Kenya and France are doing is leading in a new model of financing that does not involve debt, but rather that is encouraging private sector to put in their money and get the returns from the project that they're doing. And this is the reason why this trip for me was very important, a 1.3 billion euro project that is 100% financed by the private sector under the PPP framework, where they shall run the project, they shall operate the project, and 30 years down the line, hand that project back to the Kenyan government. So this new model of financing is something that President Macron is pushing, and I am very keen to see, because it is a way of financing that is encouraging private sector and reduces the debt burden on African economies.
I want to get to the terrorist threat in Kenya. Obviously, Kenya has been hit several times. There are reports in the US press that the US military is asking for authorization to conduct drone strikes inside Kenya in order to go after terrorists. Until then, it's been done in Somalia. So I wanted to have your reaction to those.
I wanted to be very clear. There is no such situation. The authorization, and which you all know has happened also in the past, is drone strikes on terrorist bases in Somalia. We are not at that level where we have terrorist incursions, right, but we don't have terrorist bases in Kenya. So therefore, there is no such thing. I think.
Meaning, have you refused the U.S. proposal?
The U.S. hasn't even requested.
They knew it would be no.
They haven't even requested for authority to launch drone strikes within Kenyan territory.
And you wouldn't accept it?
No. Because we don't even feel it's necessary.
How is this?
Actually, the truth of the matter is that over the last 2 years, the Kenyan security forces, working in conjunction with international partners, have greatly reduced, not to say it is over, but we have greatly reduced incidences of attacks within our borders. Touch wood, as we always say. It's not to say that the threat is completely eliminated, but I can say that we have made major progress. And actually, over the last now going 2 years, we have not really had a major incident since the Duset attack that occurred in Nairobi. So I think we're making good progress, and definitely I can tell you that there is no intention, either by the United States or by Kenya, to have drone strikes within Kenyan territory.
Tensions with Somalia, we've seen instances of shootings and so on. How bad is the situation with Somalia?
Like I said, there are probing attacks, there are occasionally incursions along the border. This is largely, it's Al-Shabaab. Yes, I'm not, the Somali government, we have good working relations. This is Al-Shabaab. This is terrorist networks.
How long are you going to stay in Somalia?
Well, Somalia, as we have always said, we will stay working together with AMISOM and the international community until such time that all of us.
Do you have an estimate?
Well,
impossible.
It's an impossible thing to say.
Okay, I want to get to Kenya, some news. The Chief Justice has issued an advisory saying Parliament should be dissolved because you had not enacted what's known as the two-third gender rule, whereby women should be appointed to a certain position in a certain proportion. First of all, I want to get your reaction to the fact that this women empowerment measure has not been enacted. Do you regret that?
Well, yes, it is indeed a regret, but at the same time, you've also got to understand that the spirit of the Constitution was actually one of progressively getting there, because at the end of the day, we have to recognize that we must balance between the rights of citizens to elect their representatives and the need for us to be able to have gender parity in any country. And let me say, and this is a fact, in a democratic society, that is not easily achievable. You have countries like the United States, I think even France, that have yet to achieve that particular objective. So we're all striving to get there.
Now the question, he's asked for Parliament to be dissolved. Are you going to do that?
I don't really think I want to comment on that, because that is a matter that's now back again in court. And in Kenya, you know, for us, so long as matters are before a court, we don't want to comment. We will wait and see the outcome of the case in court, and I think that then will determine the way forward.
Right, but that's not what you would like to do, obviously.
It's not what I would like to do, but it is an option that has been put, as you said, by the Chief Justice. So we wait to see what the outcome of the court process will produce, and that then will be the time to decide which is going to be the way forward.
Lastly, the relationship with your Deputy President, William Ruto. There have been reports of simmering tensions between you and him. So a very simple question. Will you back him? Will your party back him as a candidate for the 2022 election?
I have always maintained very clearly, and it has been my position, and I have made it public severally. We have an agenda as a government that we want to complete. We're still almost 2 years away from an election. This is not the time to start campaigning. That's number one. Number two, I have also made it very clear that my intention is to do everything I can to bring the people of Kenya together, to ensure that the next election will not be an election that shall be a tense election, or an election that can lead to a potential crisis of ethnicity. And that is the reason I reached out to those who were in the opposition, and I said, look, we have a mutual responsibility as the leadership of the country to ensure that we work together and try and find out why is it that our people, or tensions, sometimes to some terrible levels, like happened in 2007. Now, of course, there are some maybe who feel that as a result of that kind of partnership and me reaching out to the opposition is meant to sideline William Ruto.
Yes.
But there's nothing more to the contrary, because what we are trying to do is to bring people together to agree on those issues that divide us, and then be in a position to actually have an election where the people of Kenya will have an opportunity to choose for themselves thereafter the leader, and have a system that is more inclusive, so that the results at the end of the day will be such that there will be both acceptability, because there shall be a feeling of inclusion, and that no one has been left behind. So that anybody, therefore, who is going against that particular principle, which I hope to achieve, well, I don't say he's doing it, but my hope and my prayer is that we shall all work together to achieve this objective, because that is currently my primary objective. And it is my hope and prayer that especially those in my political party will work with me to ensure that we achieve this for Kenya, we achieve this for our people, And I am very hopeful that we are going to be able to work towards that end, not only with me and my deputy, but also with all. But that is the program I have. That is the objective I have. And with the help of God and the people of Kenya, that is what I hope to achieve. And that is the gift I hope to leave behind.
So you cannot commit today that you will support him in 2022?
My commitment is
not
to this.
him.
My commitment is to this process. My commitment is to peace, stability, and prosperity for the people of my republic. That is my number one function. Once we're over that hill, once, as I said, we now start talking about elective positions, you can ask me that question.
Just very last question. You were talking about once you're over the hill. You're going to be over the hill in 2022. There's not going to be, like in other country, a change of the constitution whereby...
No, I mean over the hill in these issues that we're talking about.
I understand, but you're not going to seek a third mandate or become prime minister after a constitutional change.
I would be very happy. If I have achieved this, I would have achieved everything I ever dreamt and wanted for my country.
So you don't want to remain in power one way or the other?
Oh, please. I would rather come and enjoy a holiday in France every summer.
President Kenyatta, I want to thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for watching this interview here on France 24.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.